You're listening to Inside Real Estate with Irv Tremblay on Newstalk 980.
Irv, thanks for holding over the break. Much appreciated.
My pleasure, Dave.
First segment, we were talking a lot about buyers and how buyers a lot of times don't necessarily do their homework when choosing an agent. In many cases, as you say, they tend to be adopted by an agent. They run into someone somewhere. Could be an open house. Could be somebody they see in the back of a bus bench or something. And all of a sudden they're getting the calls, hey, let's get in the car, let's go. In this type of market, especially where there's so many listings out there and available, knowing the market price for a home is so key. And you need someone who's got experience or a good track record, or let's say if it's a new agent, is being mentored or helped by a manager with a great track record.
I talk to many buyers, and if a buyer wants to meet with me, I have a buyer's meeting with them, and I go over all of the things that we do for a buyer, and we put everything in writing for them, and we give them a service pledge, and they make a decision if they want us to represent them. When I have them in my office, or prior to, when I'm talking to them on the phone, very often they worked with another agent, and very often they weren't happy. And so I always say, how did you choose that agent? Often I get silence. Well, I met them at an open house, and then we went out and looked at houses, or they were referred to me and we went out and looked at houses. Rarely have they ever mentioned sitting down and going through the process. And it's very important. And showing the houses is important, and getting you out to look at the houses. But it's from that moment that a buyer says, I like this house. It has the right feeling. I could live in this house. That's where the great agents shine, because the great agents do their homework. They call the other agent. They get all of the information they can from that other agent. And we all know most agents representing their sellers give away too much. They give away too much, and if you are a buyer and you have an agent and that agent's getting that information, passing it on to you, that can be an advantage.
What would be an example of the case where that's happened? Too much information.
I have buyers go to an open house, and they looked at a property that had just been reduced around $40,000. There was somebody working the open house, and they showed some interest, asked a few questions. The agent said, oh, and by the way, the seller's very anxious. Well, I guess that might be okay. They then went on to say, I think that you could buy this house at 8 to 10% less than asking.
Than the reduced price already?
Yes.
And this is the seller's agent that is just tossing that little tidbit out there.
Sure. So then, the buyer's agent then has that information, and we ended up writing $15,000 less than they originally thought they'd write based on that. Because that agent never knows what the buyer thinks of the price or what they're willing to write or how motivated. The same as I had an agent call me this morning, and this agent was representing the buyer. And we have a house that we reduced substantially because of the market. It's priced well. And she said to me, do you think your seller would take $40,000 less? Well, if I said yes, I wouldn't be representing my seller.
Yeah.
I know that my seller probably will take full price. And I said to her, well, where's your buyer coming from? Well, they can only afford $40,000 less. Well, then why are they looking at houses $40,000 more? There could be a case made for looking at that house $40,000 more, and the agent doing a market evaluation to verify it's overpriced by $40,000 and then showing.
So that would bring it down into the price range that they could handle.
The first part of the conversation from the agent, though, was, boy, you've got that house priced well. So they knew I had it priced well. They should have said to the buyer, listen, guys, that house is priced well.
Where it should be.
You're not going to be buying it at $40,000 less, and you probably don't want to go and look at it and fall in love with it. You're going to be disappointed. Mm-hmm. So that's poor representation. And when we talk about buyer's agents, it's that negotiation when somebody wants to write an offer and picking the right price, because even if it is a buyer's market, you can have multiple offers on homes
if it's
in
priced
a soft
correctly.
Market.
Yep.
Absolutely. Can be on the market for 2 or 3 weeks. I sold a condo yesterday. They were for sale by owner, and we talked about for sale by owners with 1,600 homes on the MLS. They should be abandoning that strategy.
Yeah,
well,
real quick.
2 of them did abandon that strategy. I listed this condo 2 weeks ago. They were for sale by owner since midsummer. 2 weeks ago, sold it yesterday, and we had 2 offers on it. And it sold for about 1.5% less than asking. So when an agent's representing a buyer, they really have to know pricing and represent them well, and pricing's everything. It's, it's like that fine line offer.
What's a fine line offer?
If I go in and write an offer on a property that's priced very well at $450 and go in and write $400, it doesn't make the seller think very much. They think about stamping it rejected. They think about going to their $450, their asking price.
Now, is that assuming that the $450 is a reasonable price for the home?
Absolutely, if it's priced right. Or let's say it was $500 and they reduced it to $450. Usually that seller's stinging from that reduction. You go in with a low offer, they're not going to be happy, and you're not going to close it. But let's say they have $445 in mind, and you write $440 based. You think it's priced pretty well, but it's a nice clean offer. No conditions, haven't added in the stove and the fridge and the Himalayan cat and things like that aren't included.
And the budgie stays.
So, it's a nice clean offer, not a lot of conditions, and it's $5,000 less than the seller wanted. Well, it's a fine line. You've got them thinking, do I really want to counter for $5,000? But when you go in real low and you don't have anything to base it on, that's not good.
Well, you're fishing.
Well, sure you are. And we're in a market now where agents absolutely don't want to turn up, buyer's agents, for their buyer. And buyer, that should be one of the main questions. When you write an offer, what are your thoughts, and will you turn up and represent me and present the offer in person when you can? That should be one of the number one questions for a buyer.
Now, we've talked, the $64,000 question, how many agents show up. I mean, in a good market where, you'd think that buyer better be well represented. I mean, a good seller's market where they need that representation because they may have multiple offers or whatever. A lot of agents won't show up then. What about now?
They don't show up when it's easy. They don't show up when they have a great offer to present. So do you think they're going to show up when they have a bad offer to present? They're going to feel pretty uncomfortable. They'll write a full price offer and they won't, I'd be coming and I'd be talking to the seller and say I've got a full price offer. So now they're writing a low offer, but it's the correct offer. They're very uncomfortable. They'll just fax it over. Hey, I remember doing an offer one time on Montague Street in the south end of the city. I presented the offer. They didn't kick me out, but it was close. They sent me away with a counter offer. I came back with not a signed counter offer, another offer. They sent me away with a counter offer and said, don't come back unless that's signed. We don't want to see you. Came back with another offer. In fact, I came back with 2 more offers. I came back 4 times and we got it closed. But that's what you need as a buyer. You need that agent representing you, even if it's uncomfortable, to tell a seller and make a case that this is why we have this offer.
Irv, you would walk up hot coals on the front sidewalk to get to the door to present an offer.
Well, that's what your buyer expects their agent is going to do. And you know what's really interesting? Often when you present these offers, the seller hasn't seen the real goods. They haven't seen the real market. They haven't been updated in the last month or 2 months since they listed as to the downturn. They're getting that same old thing from the seller. I just don't, from the selling agent, I just don't know why your house isn't selling. So when you go there and you can make a case, most motivated sellers will understand that.
And you educate them, and they find out more.
Sure.
Also, great education available on your website, Irv. All the resources are there. People can take a look. www.irvsells.ca. That's irvsells.ca. Or you can give Irv a call, 790-3753, 790-3753. Irv, is always a pleasure.
Thanks, Dave.
You've been listening to Inside Real Estate with Irv Tremblay from Century 21.